Good afternoon, folks. Here we are. We got Ted. I believe we're streaming to multiple platforms. So, Ted talks ball, and you got me, Dave McNiner. You saw in the intro, me standing next to Steve Young, right? That was the Giants, the home opener, first and only 49ers game I've ever been to, right?
The one I missed, I was supposed to be there, but my son was born
Yeah.
3 days before on the 15th
Yep.
or the 18th. That was the
Did
21st, Thursday.
did you ever doing the gold mine experience
I
last
did it for
season?
the Bucks game with the 49ers faithful UK guys, John Chapman and Ty Alston. So, yeah, 35 Brits, 3 Yanks, and I guess that's
I bet
36.
that was fun.
3 Yanks and one friend of John, 3 Yankee content creators and one friend of John Chapman. I think Breezy was supposed to make the trip out from back east, but it's a lot of logistics for one game, so he wasn't able to make it. But I'd met Breezy before a couple times, at least one time in his music video. So,
but yeah, I mean, I really like the gold mine experience. It was fun. You had to scream, and yell, and I have no problem with that. And then, at the end when they literally asked us to they asked us if we wanted to go down on the field, and a couple folks that were sitting in front of me were like, yeah, we're going to get out of here before traffic gets bad, and they literally left. And then the dude comes up and says, hey, you guys want to
Nick Clark.
Want to go down on the field? Wait a minute.
Nick Clark.
I was like, yeah.
Oh man, they must have been kicking themselves.
I bet they were.
I wasn't going to be able to go down either way because it was my mother's 80th birthday dinner later that evening. And so I was already a little bit late to get there, just stay for the end of the game because you do have to stay for the whole game in the gold mine. And sadly, though, we didn't get invited to the field. I mean, I guess, and I hate to say happily for me because it's so selfish, but, heartbreaking for all the guys who came all the way over from the UK that they didn't get to go down there. But it's not a shoo-in if you're in the gold mine that you get to go down onto the field. So you guys, lucky you got to.
Yeah, well, it was the home opener against the Giants, and I mean, when I walked on it, I've walked on a college field, and the high school fields are rougher than a stucco bathtub. Let's be honest, depending on, like what grade of high school you're talking about here. The ones around here, they're rougher than a stucco bathtub. But I walked out on the field and it was like, man, this feels kind of soft and spongy. I was like, it felt like a golf green. That's what I related it to right off the bat. This feels like a golf green, and it was just awesome. And one of the security guards pointed out Steve Young. That's how I got that picture. I was like, whoa, what? Steve Young? He's like, yeah, that guy over there in the dress shirt. He was there with a young ladies sports team. I think they were local to, Levi's. I'm not sure what high school, but, he was over there throwing the ball around with them for a while. It was fun though, but they were working on the field, right? So we could only stay in like the 30-yard line into the end zone. So I went and, I got me a pitcher in the end zone, and
nice.
And then there was one of the guys that had to take off running. And I mean, he was heading for the tunnel, where the players come out. And, security's telling him to stop. They're being patient. And they kept telling the guy to stop. And he just kept on going and kept on going. And they caught him. And it's like, yep, that guy's getting banned. Like,
yeah, that's not smart. No doubt about it. Brutal. Yeah, I mean, there are people who say that the grass, the sod at Levi's is some of the best, if not the best, in the entire NFL.
Yeah, when I was walking on it, I was just like, I didn't quite know what to expect. Was it just going to be like a normal grass field but it was like a golf green, and it wasn't tore up too bad after that game, but it was just an awesome experience being at Levi's. It was my first NFL game ever.
Got to see Sam Darnold play, Sam area with Bryant Culp's hero.
Did Bryant tell you the story?
His family was next to you guys.
We were at the concession stand that's right by there by the gold mine area,
Mhm.
and we were actually back away eating, and here comes Sam Darnold's family, like walking by. I think it was his dad, his mom, his girlfriend, and it looked like his little brother. We weren't sure, because we don't know Sam Darnold's family, so we weren't quite sure who we were looking at. But it was just like, oh wow, look at this, and Bryant, he yelled out Sam area.
I mean, I think it's like a sure bet when you see several people wearing the same jersey of a obscure player or like a backup. They got to be family or friends. It's just not normal to see a bunch of people wearing a Darnold t-shirt jersey. That is. I remember one time in the section I sit in, my buddy's seats that has season tickets that I go three times a year and see games. And we saw about 4 people wearing Spencer Burford jerseys. And Spencer is a decent player, but there's no way 4 people just randomly were wearing his jersey sitting together. That's not family or good friends. So.
Oh yeah, that's either his close friends or his family, right?
Yeah, especially O linemen, right? I mean, how many people wear O lineman jerseys to begin with? And if you do, it's probably a Trent Williams jersey, right? Or Joe Staley, or one of the more famous lead O linemen, not a guy who's like fighting for his job, splitting time with Daniel Brunskill and losing his job to John Feliciano, essentially.
Oh yeah, Kenny's saying that now. Ted's been going without a visor for a couple weeks there, Kenny.
Yeah, I went visor free for I had Raj and I had John Pay on. I met John Pay at a Super Bowl party, and he came on to promote a nonprofit event that he was throwing for colon cancer research. And also his sister Kate had just been promoted from assistant head coach to full-blown head coach of the Stanford Cardinal women's basketball team. So it's kind of an interesting story that his sister Kate had played on I believe it was 1991 national championship team for Stanford women under Tara Vanderveer. And then she came and was an assistant coach for many years. And then when Tara stepped aside, Kate Pay took over. So John, her brother, played basketball and football at Stanford. He was a backup QB on the 89 team, so he got a ring with the Niners. When I met him at the party, we were talking, and he's like, when I was on the team, and I was like, what's your name? And he's like, John Pay. I'm like, no way. I watched you at Stanford, basketball and football, mostly football, though he came after John Elway. And, I knew he'd been on the Niners as a backup, but I told some cool stories about that. He actually said that he felt like he was a better practice QB than Steve Young, but obviously when Steve got in the game, special things happened. He was just a gamer, we might say. But and the other story he told was in college at Stanford, he was either a shooting guard or a point guard. I think he was a point guard, and he was the top of the key during a tournament. And this player in powder blue and white, MJ, like basically skied over him at the top of the key, not top of the key, the top at the free throw line or the elbow where the free throw line meets the key, and dunked over him. And he's like 6'3", and he dunked right over his shoulder and just left him in the dust. So it's pretty cool. And obviously, knew Joe Montana, Steve Young, Jerry Rice, the glory years, Brent Jones, Roger Craig, Rathman, all that glory team in the late 80s and early 90s. So pretty cool stuff. But yeah, since then, no jersey, no visor. I even took down a little bit of the swag in the background. I'm probably going to take down a little bit more, just clean it up a little bit. And, I think it makes me look a little too fanboy to have too much stuff. And I like to think that I'm pretty unbiased and objective. And you definitely added a lot since we last streamed, right? I mean, your wall used to be a lot more plain, didn't it?
It used to be just blank.
Yeah, the last time we streamed, I want to say it was pretty blank. So no, it looks good. And everybody should do whatever they want, with their stuff. But I had some suggestions about, just being a little more neutral and a little bit more sort of maybe overall NFL focused and not so Niner centric. But, the Niners are who I follow passionately. They're the only ones I pay attention to on the breaking news with full attention. That is so.
I got to hit Paul Hope up because I'm looking at that Niners UK flag, and that actually dimensionally wise would fit right in the area of this poster, and I'd have to pull these cards off and probably put them under it, but that's okay, because I do want to put a 49er UK flag because I have the.
Oh, there you go.
We got
Mexico.
We got the Mexican flag. Shout out to Beto.
Yeah,
I went and bought that just so I had something on my wall because when I was on everyone else's shows, I didn't have anything, and it was like I got sick of staring at the wall behind me blank.
I've been keeping up much with Beto lately because he blocked me a while back. So I don't know what I did. You know me, I'm not really the most abrasive type person unless you. I think there was one time over like Niners or Lakers Warriors stuff, but this was well after that. So I'm not sure what it was, but God bless him. And hey, at least it's a cool flag. So. It
is. But yeah, Gammon, saying me wearing sleeves. Now, Gammon, when it's cold, I do wear a sweater. Although I have a shirt on underneath that has no sleeves. I guarantee it, buddy.
Yeah, it's true.
Without a visor. And as long as you're in, not in public, then you can do whatever you want.
You were wearing, a tank top last time we streamed together.
Yep. I always go sleeveless shirts. I'm not a fan of sleeves because, sleeveless shirts, they're actually cooler during the summer. They let a little more heat out, and a little more airflow through. So I don't know how long ago this goes back. I think I started wearing sleeveless shirts somewhere in the mid 2000s,
That's cool.
But it's comfortable. It's comfortable to me. So I actually have a sweater, and it's not a Niner sweater, but I have a sweater that has it's sleeveless too.
There you go. I have a few sweater vests.
Sweater vest. It's in the dirty clothes. So
yeah. It's good stuff. Yeah. I have a few vests. I don't wear a lot of tank tops though, typically. But maybe I'll have to give it a try on your recommendation.
It's a little cooler. Now you don't have to go full tank top. You get to just go get they sell the shirts that just don't have sleeves on them,
Mm-hmm.
And that's typically what I go with. Or, when I buy a shirt and it has sleeves, I have scissors.
I see. So it still has a traditional collar, just no sleeves. I got it. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, it's just like a normal shirt, just no sleeves.
Lower cut. Right. Got it. Sorry. So I was misspeaking.
Yeah. Gavin, you can do
sleeveless shirt, not a tank top, Ted. Damn it. There we go.
Uh-oh. What's good, Brant?
Wild in the chat.
Brant's at work. Working the day away. I wonder if he's got that ceiling put back up yet. But we got Steve-O. Steve-O, what's good, buddy?
Steve-O Supremo.
Just take the Warriors light down. Uh-oh.
I mean, shoot, the big three could be a thing of history here. Klay Thompson's contract is up. There's a lot of debate as to whether the Warriors should re-sign him or not. But sounds like Joe Lacob has said he's going to keep him, and so I trust Joe Lacob. He's paying the bills ultimately, but I do think that regardless of whether we keep Klay or not, I think the days of spending hundreds of millions of dollars over the cap are probably going to be at least on pause for a little bit until we make the playoffs or make some noise in the playoffs again to justify, spending hundreds of millions of dollars every year in luxury tax that he did. I mean, it was incredible what he did as an owner. God bless him.
I haven't actually followed the NBA in a long time. So they do still have a salary cap, but they allow teams to break it and they pay a luxury tax now?
Yeah, luxury tax, and it's like progressive or not incremental. That would be where it goes up like steps. It's exponential, so that as you spend more and more above the cap, it gets really punitive to the point where I think there was a point where we signed Gary Payton II, Sean Payton's son. No, not Sean Payton.
It'd be Gary Payton Sr. It'd be
right. I'm such a dummy.
Yeah.
Gary, the glove from the Seattle Sonics. with Sean Kemp and stuff. That's who I was getting. Sean Kemp, Gary Payton. Yeah. Anyway, bottom line is, I think we signed him to $8 or $10 million contract, and Joe Lake paid $80 million in luxury tax to spend that extra 10. So people were like, "Oh, well, $10 million isn't that much." I was like, "Well, the $80 million that you pay because you're that far over the cap, really, that's a big stinger." But that was, I think, the year that they won their last ring against the Celtics a couple of years back. So,
it's probably every year that they go over the cap and they stack it. Probably, I bet the luxury tax goes up, right? Is that how it works?
I think it's the same sliding scale, but like if you just keep trying to add more people, it just gets really steep, really fast. And I'm pretty sure, that was the ring year that was that exorbitant. And then so they're like, "Oh, well, let's save some money. We'll let Gary Payton walk, the second walk." And then like halfway through the season, they're like, "Oh, I think we need him back." We ended up trading to get him back, which was terrible, but hey, whatever. Bottom line is, Steve, I think you're right. The war. I'm not going to take it down, but the Warriors are definitely not as newsworthy of late, and maybe not for a while. Depending on, they need to get somebody good. Steph needs his go-to person who can score. They need a big man. They've fought having a big man forever, and I think they really need a big man who can score.
Yeah, the NBA is vastly different. I was actually looking into it the other day because I haven't watched since like the Michael Jordan era, and around here it'd be Karl Malone and John Stockton. I'm in Utah.
Absolutely, they were phenomenal.
Yeah, I haven't watched that.
One of the best duos to never win a ring.
Yep. That's the sad truth right there.
Gary Payton II and Sean Kemp were up there too, and they both lost to Michael Jordan. Go figure, So it was a tough time to win rings.
Their best chance was the strike shortened season in the late '90s. The Spurs ended up winning it, but it was like they stacked a whole bunch of games in there, and at that point the team was aging. So
the Spurs that was when they had David Robinson and Tim Duncan, right?
Yes.
Jeez, talk about Twin Towers. That was pretty incredible. And, big man.
That was their best chance, but it's like, you probably needed to rest the veterans quite a bit to get through that and have them be 100% when you hit the playoffs, and that just wasn't the case.
Yeah, they didn't do that back then. The rest was not a thing. It only came up in the last 6-7 years, I think, where they just started.
You play your starters 35, 40 minutes a game back then.
Load management, they call it, right? Everybody has player rest. So it's a fancy way of saying player rest. It's a fancy way of saying you may spend a lot of money on a ticket and your favorite player may not play that night. It's kind of a bummer for the fans.
Yes, that's true.
Especially ones that aren't going to a bunch of games, like the Fat Cat season ticket holders or whatnot. The John Q. Public type folks who have to scrimp and save to go buy a ticket, and then, Steph Curry's not playing, or in my case, Draymond Green's not playing. I will say I've lost a little bit of love for Draymond after all his shenanigans and getting the indefinite suspension and missing a lot of games. Some people say we missed the playoffs because of Draymond Green's suspension. You could make that argument. I could also make the argument we missed it because Wiggins' personal time off. So, but Draymond, we wouldn't have won those 4 rings without Draymond. So. Or Wiggins in the last one. Wiggins was incredible in those playoffs. So what are you going to do? After a dynasty is over, I'm okay with being a little sentimental and having a few years of not being great. After having so many years from like 75 or 76, whenever it was we won the first ring, till 2015-16 season when they finally beat LeBron, or was it 14-15? I think it was 2015-16. Anyway, bottom line, talking like 40 years of futility. I don't mind rewarding them with a little bit of futility to keep the big 3 together. I do think it's probably best to move on from Clay if you really want to try and compete next year, but I don't think they will, and I'm okay with it. I'm just like, hey, it's hard to complain.
Well, the Niners have been 30 now, right?
30 years, yes, sir. Yeah,
it's 30 years now.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, in 1995, it would be 2025 would be exactly 30 years if we were able to win the Super Bowl. We can make it 3 decades erased of.
Yeah, we got it. It kind of needs to happen though. You know,
it's a little different with the Niners and Warriors though, because like the Niners, you know, we've been to like what 8 NFC championships and 3 Super Bowls since then. The Warriors, like they had one series that they won, the We Believe, when they were the 8th seed and they knocked off the number 1 Dirk Nowitzki led Dallas Mavs. I think it was 2007 or 2008. And you know, other than that, they barely ever made the playoffs, let alone made noise in the playoffs. So it's a little different. I wouldn't call it futility. I would just call it frustration at coming up short. But the Warriors weren't even like in the dance to come up short. They were short of being short, you know. So.
But yeah, I don't know if they like they have a play-in tournament now. No. Keep in mind,
last three
remember,
seasons or so, maybe last 4 seasons. Instead of having just the top 8 play, and the 8 seed plays the 1, and 2 plays the 7, and the 3 plays the 6, and the 4 and 5 play each other. Now they've expanded it to 10, but basically 7, 8, 9, 10 are not really in. They're in a play-in. Now 7's in a pretty good position. All they have to do is win the first game. They're in. 8 is in a slightly less advantageous position where if they can lose the first game and play the winner of the 9-10, and they can still get in. You know, 9 can lose a game. No. Yeah. No. Anyway, bottom line is 9 and 10. The loser of 9 and 10 is out, and the winner of 9 and 10 plays the loser of the 7-8. So it's no 10 seed has ever made the playoffs yet so far in the 4 years. The Warriors were a 10 seed. They didn't buck the trend. They didn't make history by making the playoffs. I thought they might make the playoffs and actually make a little noise the way they were playing towards the end, but I think they just ran out of steam a little bit. And the Kings were geared up. The Kings played the Warriors really well last year in a 7-game series. And they're built really well to play against the Warriors, and they just came out and they were just so hot, and they just got to a huge lead, and the Warriors could never really get back in it, let alone make it a back and forth lead change type of situation. They were always either a lot down or a little down, like half as much of a lead, but never within a bucket or two.
But yeah, Marco V, thanks for coming. He's watching on your channel, but he's like, I don't know if y'all touched on this, but the NFL has us playing the Bucks and the Dolphins in September, and the Packers and Bills in late December. I believe that's the NFL trying to jeopardize us. They actually seem to do that every year. But the schedule, I believe it will officially drop next Wednesday, so a week from today, if not Thursday, next week, Thursday. So we'll have a, idea of what's going on there.
Packers and Bills in late December. Yeah, it's probably going to be cold, maybe snowy. Oh, yeah. I don't know that really hurts us, though. We've been a pretty tough smash mouth team, and usually those type of teams, running the ball type of thing, good defense, that usually shows up in cold weather. Those kind of things usually travel, for one, and also show up more in cold weather. You look at the Ice Bowl game against the Packers where we won it on special teams. I'm not too worried about those as much. Other than, all right, here's the deal. If it's windy, back east in the winter, that would worry me because of Brock Purdy is not having a real strong arm. Whereas, the Bills obviously have Josh Allen, who has arguably the strongest arm in the NFL. The early September games in Florida, it's going to be really hot. But there, I would just say, once every few years, that's probably going to happen to us. And the reason why I'm not too worried about it is because the NFL has done us a solid for as many years as I can remember, last at least 4 or 5 years, maybe 6, where they schedule all our early season games away or at night because we don't want to roast on the sunny side at Levi's when it's hot there. It gets really, really hot on that sunny side. And so it is a bummer. It is a bummer to have those heat games in Florida, but they would be heat games at Levi's too, I guess, is the flip side of it. And we're just lucky that, like I said, for at least the last 4 or 5 years, we haven't had many at Levi's in September. So they at least hooked us up that way. But yeah, I could see why people would say the NFL is trying to jeopardize us a little bit or knock us down a peg, if you will.
You know, they can try, but, you know, it's up to the team to push through it, right? And, you know, so worried about Purdy in the snow or the rain?
Rain.
I'm really not because it seems like it's a team thing, you know.
No, he is not good in the rain. We saw it in Cleveland, and we saw it in the Packers game, the divisional round when it was raining hard. He was ineffective, and when he had to come back, first of all, the TD was a run, but he had some nice passes on that drive, especially a big one to Chris Conley, I think to Debo as well too. But ultimately, it had slowed down. The rain had, slowed down a lot. The field had dried up. The balls were drier. So I have concerns about Purdy in the rain. Absolutely. In the snow, not as much. I would say rain and wind more than snow. Snow doesn't worry me too much.
Yeah. Well, hey, you saw the pictures of Purdy beefing up, right? Like, you know, his right arm's twice as big as his left. No, I'm just kidding with that. But yeah, you know,
I think some of them actually
has an off season.
Some of those were photoshopped. They're put weightlifting
I know.
arms on or whatever.
I was laughing. Okay. I was thinking about photoshopping one and making his right arm like twice as big as his left arm, and just making a joke of what was going on there. But I didn't. It'd have been funny though. It really would have been.
Absolutely.
But he actually has an off season. So, it wouldn't surprise me if he comes in 5-10 pounds heavier than last year, because he's not just rehabbing the elbow. He, has an opportunity to work out. He's going to be in OTAs with the team. He's going to be working with his new wide receivers. So, I mean, we all saw him hit the ground running last year, and we saw from his rookie season to his second season, I do think he improved a bit, but now he's got a full off season and he's going into his third season. So what are you expecting to see out of Purdy?
Yeah, I expect a step to a jump forward. I don't think a leap like what we saw last year. I mean, between 2022 and 2023, he took a huge leap. He was nailing the deep throws. He was peeling off long runs. Both were things I never really thought I would see. That's a good point, Brian. If that's true, if they are practicing with wet balls, that would be a change, because Kyle said, we're not. Why would we practice with wet balls? We that's silly or whatever. And I would love to see him change his stance on that. Because I think if there's a high probability of rain, I think you should practice with wet balls that week, and figure out if you can figure out how to throw with a glove. He tried the glove in the Packer game, and to me it looked like he was getting good zip on the ball, but so he could grip it, but didn't look like he could ungrip it properly, like release. And therefore, I think it was affecting his accuracy when he threw it right to that DB. It seemed uncharacteristic of him. And so I think practicing with a glove, with a wet ball, or without gloves with a wet ball, I think really makes a lot of sense, especially if that's the game coming up that week. But we'll see. I don't believe Kyle will reverse his stance. He's stubborn as all get up.
He really is, and he also has trust issues, and this is what I'm talking about as rookies, right? Like, he doesn't like to play rookies. The defensive side, he'll start a defensive lineman, and he'll put a defensive back out there out of necessity. But that's also on the offensive side, the out of necessity. Raheem Mostert went down. Here comes Elijah Mitchell in his rookie season, right? Brunskill went down. Here comes Spencer Burford in his rookie season. Wide receiver back in 2020, we had Debo get hurt. I don't know who else we had. I mean, back then the roster, our wide receiver room wasn't really that great. It was Debo, Ayuk, and everybody else. And
did Brunskill get hurt though? I thought he and Burford just platooned. And
Well,
Burford's rookie.
Brunskill, he got hurt in the preseason and couldn't start the season. And then when he came back, they started to platooning the two.
Okay. All right. That's maybe I do.
But yeah, Kyle
Must have forgotten that.
doesn't like to play rookies. It's
absolutely not.
His dad didn't either. I was around for when he was with the Broncos and they had those great years, Super Bowls. He didn't like to play rookies either. So I think it may be a Shanahan thing, but at the same time, I still haven't graded last year. I'm talking 2023's draft, because it's hard to grade something when you don't see all the guys on the field actually playing. And this next year, we're going to see Cameron Latou. I've been calling him Cameron LaHoo because we have no idea what he has to offer other than the preseason and, watching him struggle a little bit, but then come around late in the preseason, get hurt, and then get put on IR before the 53 was announced, which ended his season, And then Braden Willis, we saw a little bit of him here and there, but he was mainly blocking and kind of came in and played for juice a little bit, like fullback wise, right? So hopefully Kyle takes the red shirt off these two tight ends and we can actually see what they have to offer, because having someone behind Kittle would be great. Charlie Warner actually didn't play bad last year. He caught a few that were thrown his way. I didn't see him do anything terrible, but he's mainly a blocking tight end, right?
I mean, I think it was like a few for the whole season, essentially, right?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
That's just not
it's like Ross Dwelly, a lot of folks say best hands on the team, and Bryant will Bryant will probably tell me about he did have the best hands on the team.
Yeah, but he can't block to save his life. If you give him a running start, he decleated Aaron Donald one time in a game, but basically if he's standing still, he gets no push off the line. So yeah, you got one tight end who can't block, one who can't catch, and or at least doesn't give the opportunity to catch. I watch for the undrafted tight end P-line. I think I don't know, just from being at camp, I was at all 9 camp practices last year. I plan to make as many as I can this year again too. Latou, he's a good blocker, really good route runner. He got open, but man, those hands were, it was bad. It was not even not so good or okay. They just straight up bad. And he made some catches in a preseason game, but against scrubs, when all the 3rd and 4th stringers are in there, what does that really mean?
And this is something he could have been working on, when he came back from his injury, and he obviously can't be put on the roster.
Yeah.
But this is something he could be working on the side. So this is all yet to be seen. OTAs are coming up, right?
Yep, exactly. So tight end, I think, was a big area of need. And then with Braden Willis, he had a lot of really great catches in camp. He's fast. He has good hands. He's not a great blocker. Kind of like a faster, smaller version of Dwelly, essentially. Can catch but can't block. So maybe he can learn to block. That might be another way. Or maybe Latou can learn to catch. Or maybe I don't know. There was the guy we picked up in the off season. Blanking on his name right now. Schubert, Eric Saubert,
or it's something like
Sherbert?
that.
No, I think it's Saubert.
I'm honestly thinking I think
he's a camp
body.
Yeah,
I'm thinking camp body.
I think it could be P-line, honestly, out of Furman. So we'll see. I really wanted to draft a tight end who could block and catch. I really wanted to draft an offensive tackle. Other than that, I did like the guys we drafted. I really like Ricky Pearsall. I like Renardo Green. I like Pooney. Especially since, Feliciano has said this is his last roundup, that he will retire at the end of the 2024 season. Since Aaron Banks is not under contract for the 2025 season. So that could be a sticking point with what guards are getting paid. We just don't value guards enough to pay him. I'd be shocked if we paid him over $10 million a year. And he might be able to command that on the open market. So I like that. I think guard was probably a bigger need than tackle if, McKivitz makes a modest improvement and Trent Williams can stay healthy. But, if either one of them go down, I think we're in a world of hurt because there's no real true tackle. I mean, other than Jalen Moore, and I just don't trust him until proven otherwise. I don't trust Jalen Moore, and so it's a little bit scary out there on the O-line. And it's one thing I am envious of the Rams and McVay. Like, I think he prioritizes the line, or Les Snead, whoever their GM, but they really revamped their O-line this offseason. They had some nice picks in the draft. They already had a lot of weapons on offense, and they added Blake Corum. Losing Aaron Donald is a huge, massive loss. Hard to figure out, how massive that'll be. But I think we'll see anyone who's picking them to win the West, like I saw, what's his bucket? Colin Cowherd was saying, I think they're fooling themselves. Because also they're just one injury away from our buddy Jimmy G taking over the reins.
That's
he's
true.
Not going to do much. So
that is so true. And I mean, Aaron Donald, he doesn't only, do the flashy stuff. He does the dirty work. So, he get in there,
he triple teamed on almost
exactly,
every play.
And that's what improved the defensive line around him.
Yeah.
But now he's not going to be in there doing that. So I can't expect their defensive line to, get better with him gone.
They did have a nice draft pick. Supposedly, I think his name is Verse, maybe their first round draft pick.
I think he was he's an edge.
Yes.
So,
yeah. And so we'll see. But, they had some other defensive picks too. So maybe that'll help. But I can't imagine that, a rookie and a bunch of rookies are going to, as everybody was saying that about the Eagles last year. Look at all their guys they drafted out of UGA, out of Georgia, the Bulldogs. It's like Georgia, North or whatever you want to call it. And then their defense fell apart at the end of the year. So, I don't put too much stock into draft picks. I mean, there's always, exceptions like Puka Nacua, who they got in the 5th round. Incredible. Good for them, but bad for us for sure. Not happy about.
Well, Puka Nacua is steal, and I don't think anyone saw that coming. That's kind of how Cooper Kupp came up. That they drafted
in Washington. Yeah.
Yep. They put him at the slot. The slot receiver is big with Sean McVay.
Yes.
And, now they have Cooper Kupp and him. They've spent some money on the O-line, which, free agency, not every free agent you sign is going to be a hit.
No, but some of their guys got healthy too that had been injured for a while. So,
yeah.
There was a guard they drafted a year or two ago who I think they drafted highly, and supposedly he's starting to come around. So, out of Wisconsin, I want to say they've gotten a lot of their offensive line from Wisconsin, if I recall correctly.
Last year when they made the playoffs, right? They actually won 2 games because their opposing team missed game-winning field goals.
There you go. Or what about the game where
Seahawks
Sam Darnold just coughed up the ball on the game-winning drive?
So it's kind of they squeaked their way in, but they were really close to not even being in. Yeah. This year, that rookie class they had last year that was so good is going to be better. I do expect some competition out of the Rams, but we'd better just, take care of business against them. And that's all we can do is take care of our own business, right? I mean, we have a number 1 schedule because we won our division. So now we have this tough schedule that comes along with it. But that was last year's schedule too. That was also a number 1 schedule.
Yes.
So the schedule doesn't necessarily scare me. All the teams we're playing, it doesn't. They're still an NFL team. They still got to beat us. We got to beat them.
Well, what scared me last year rolling into the season about our schedule was I forget how many it was. I want to say negative 20 rest days that we had. Yeah, it was negative 20, and there were 3 teams at plus 12. So quite a few teams had almost a month more rest during a 3.5 month season. So that was a big concern. So hopefully we'll have more rest days this year, more of like those East Coast double ups where you're not going east, west every week. You can go out east and have 2 or 3 games out there would really be helpful. So we'll see.
Yep. Be able to stay back there in Ohio, right?
A lot of people
But
thought the schedule was going to drop tomorrow, but I guess it's officially announced for next Wednesday. Is that?
that's actually what 49er media said, Anshul.
There you go.
So, and I trust him,
Absolutely.
But I mean, at this point, it's like you never know what's going to happen over the course of the season. Making it to the Super Bowl is a hard thing to do. Making it back 2 times in a row is also a hard thing to do.
Yeah, the Super Bowl curse is real, as I was telling the Eagles last year, and look what happened to them.
Yep, they did still make the playoffs, but after they played us, we can honestly say this, they just fell apart. We went in there, we took them apart. They were never the same team after that. And there's an Eagles fan that says that it was that security guard, Big Dom. When he got kicked out and suspended is why their team fell apart, because he's the team's psychologist.
No, it's because it's because the Niners, they knew they could never beat us in the playoffs, so they were just like, let it go for this year.
Yep. And speaking of the draft, so in the first round, I was hoping the Niners would trade up. My guy was gone at number 7. J.C. Latham. That was my favorite tackle. Joe Alt, I knew he was going to be taken top 5. He went to the Chargers at 5, right? I didn't figure he would be available later in the round. But I figured J.C. Latham might fall to the mid-teens. Maybe the Niners would trade up, right? He got taken at 7 by the Titans. And I actually did, a couple mock drafts, not online, just messing around by myself. And I traded up, and folks, I traded Brandon Ayuk to get there, just because it was one of those, we don't know what's going to happen, right? And
what did we get?
So there I am sitting at 8, right? The Atlanta Falcons.
Wow.
And the Tennessee Titans, in two drafts I did, took J.C. Latham. I was like, And they actually had the first 10 guys taken, minus Michael Penix Jr. to the Falcons. No one saw that coming, right?
Yeah, what if the Falcons had gotten Brandon Ayuk instead of Penix? Wow, what a huge get that would be for Kirk Cousins to have Drake London and Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson, and then Ayuk. That's like 4 stud weapons. That would be pretty impressive. And they have a good line, obviously. One of the best.
It would probably put them as the favorites for the NFC South at that point, if that would have happened.
I might anyway.
But, I mean,
it's probably the Bucks, but I might anyway.
Yeah, the Bucks still have a lot of veterans from that Super Bowl team, but those guys aren't getting any younger, and they have Baker Mayfield, which I don't think he's lived up the number 1 overall pick status, but he's still, a serviceable, pretty good QB. He's not terrible.
He was good last year.
Oh yeah. But, so we didn't trade up, we maybe because we couldn't find a partner, who knows, they might've tried trading up with the Steelers, and the Steelers said, no way, we're improving our offensive line. And they took another guy like out of Washington, Fontenot.
Yeah, I liked him.
They took him. 7 tackles went in the first round, which normally 4 go. That's about average. 7 tackles went. And it was just like, I was like, wow. And a lot of good offensive linemen dropped to that number 31 spot. But then we took Ricky Parcells. I was straight up surprised by it. That was one of the moves I didn't see coming. But I did say before the draft, I guarantee they're going to draft someone, and you're going to say, what the heck, what's up with that? And it happened with the first pick. I was like, he had a second, third round grade, but the Niners, we liked him to the point where it took him at 31, right? And after watching
probably
tape
wouldn't
on
have been there at 63 or whenever we picked next. So.
Yeah, he definitely wouldn't have been there at 63. And, as the draft progressed, here we are, 63 is coming up. There's one more tackle. There's a couple tackles I still like on the board. The Niners lose out on Rosengarten.
To the Ravens.
I think that's the guy they were eyeballing at 63.
Yep.
And, then we take Renardo Green, who, athletically, he's fast, he's big, he's got long arms, and he's physical. A lot of the flags he got in college were just from him being physical downfield, and this is all stuff that can be fixed with coaching, the long arms, speed, and, how big he is, that's something you can't coach up. So, I don't expect to see him on the field much, his rookie year, because we have Lenore Ward, we have Yadam. Ambry Thomas might be hitting the road, but I also thought that would happen last year and it didn't, right?
Yeah, I thought it would happen during camp because Ambry was burnt toast in camp, but then in the preseason he played better. So I think he saved his spot by coming around the preseason a little bit. But yeah, Ambry is not now that Isaiah Oliver is gone, he's the next guy to be like, okay, when can we get rid of him in the secondary?
Oh yeah, but we signed Yadam and Lucas. Lucas is more of a special teamer.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's Yadam and Rocky Yassin are the two that
Rocky Yassin. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was Colt.
So we signed these two guys on top of Lenore and Ward. And then we still have Womack and Luter Jr.
Yep.
And we have, Renardo Green. So typically
Don't
we
tell
keep
Lee
5,
Gallen.
6.
Don't tell Lee Gallen of the 49ers Fifth Week because he announced the pick of Sammy Womack, but I don't think he's going to work out. I think he's had enough time. There are not too many injuries. I really thought when we got him out of Toledo, which is actually oddly enough the same school where this Quinyon Mitchell, who went the first cornerback off the board this year, he went to Toledo too. So they obviously have a good secondary coach or scouting there.
They really do. They really do.
But, I think Sammy Womack might be next on the chopping block after Ambry Thomas.
Well, Luter Jr., he has size and speed. I saw him catch a returner from behind, so I know he's got good game speed. I mean, we'll just see what happens over the course of camp and how everything progresses.
He just got injured in OTAs and missed all of, training camp and preseason. So that's really hard to overcome. Like you said, like Kyle already has it in for rookies, and then if you miss all the stuff before week 1, you're pretty much redshirting almost 100% of the time.
Oh yeah, that's a fact. But then the next pick we trade up and we take Dominic Pooney, the offensive tackle. I say that because everyone's saying his arms are an inch short, but the guy is athletic enough to make up for having arms that are an inch short. So why we drafted him, to play guard or tackle, this is all yet to be seen. But he's a better pass blocker than he is a run blocker, which is different from the offensive line we have drafted in the past. All the guys we draft are like better run blockers and, really good run blockers, and they're okay at pass blocking, which, I don't think any of them have actually gotten better at it.
Yeah, I mean, that was in the draft. I noticed 3 very, obvious to me trends between this and other drafts past. One, the one you just mentioned, Pooney and Kingston are both good pass blockers. Neither gave up a sack in 2023. Pooney didn't give one up in 2022 either. Neither are particularly outstanding run blockers, but they're super athletic freaks that they're at least athletic enough to run block if they learn some better technique. But they're definitely better on the pass blocking. That was one thing I noticed. The other was I noticed a difference in wide receivers, at least with Persall, compared to Debo and Ayuk and Kittle, or Debo and Kittle and Ayuk to a lesser extent, which was not a yak guy. not known for yak, not known for running people over. Maybe I wouldn't say easy to tackle, but definitely not a lot of yak. And some of that you can blame on his quarterback, who was terrible at Florida. But great route runner, great hands. The best vertical leap on the team, the best 40 time on the team of the realistic wide receivers. And, in Jacob Cowing, same thing, except for he does have a little bit of yak and doesn't have this great hands, but he's a really great route runner as well, just different routes. Cowing is more of like a deep guy, and Ricky Pearsall is more of a deep crosser. So that was the second thing I noticed in the draft. And then the third thing I noticed was a real shift away from like the Trey Lance types and fully firmly into the Brock Purdy types, older, played 4 or 5 years in college, 23, 24 years old, proven track records other than Garendo, and not like, young, unproven, traitsy, like big arm, fast, tall, all the stuff that Trey Lance was, but only 17 games and in a podunk division, some say Division 2, but honestly, we all know it was Division 1 AA at North Dakota State. But I guess the competition, that was the big thing was back then, and probably still in North Dakota State, was like the Alabama. And I guess we can't say Alabama anymore because they've really fallen off. I guess Georgia has had the most dominance recently, and
recently they're putting out a lot of NFL players.
Gotta figure Michigan won't continue without Harbaugh to be dominant. So I would expect Georgia again next year. But anyway, bottom line is,
hey, did you see how many Washington players got drafted?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah,
obviously, that team's got to have to hit the reset button.
Rosengarten, they're both tackles, and obviously that they're right tackle, or I guess Roger Rosengarten played right tackle, but because Penix is left-handed, it's essentially he's a blindside tackle. The way usually you think of a left tackle. So their left tackle, who is more like a right tackle, went way before Rosengarten. I forget his name. I think he's Poly Islander as well too, Polynesian. But anyway, bottom line is, there were tons of Washington players that went, they were in the national championship, right? That's what happens. And I think we were smart. Another thing I noticed was we drafted 2 people out of Florida State who maybe would have won the whole thing if they'd just been let in, but their quarterback went down a few games before the end of the season, and even though they won all the games after, didn't matter. The committee was like, sorry, can't come in without your starting QB, which I kind of understand, but I also understand they might have won it all if they had been let in, especially if the quarterback had been healthy. So all of a sudden those players are going to be less highlighted, less, lots of people don't. I didn't know who Ricky Pearsall was. I didn't know who our linebacker, I don't even remember his name right at the moment. Anyway, almost Mr. Irrelevant in the draft was. And I'm sure with scouts, that's probably true too, So I think there was some brilliance in drafting some folks from Florida State versus Washington, where everybody was all over them, and Michigan too, right? There were tons of draft picks from Michigan too, right? So.
Oh yeah. I was like, I was looking at the amount of Washington players. It's like, do they even have a starter returning?
It's pretty crazy, especially for the Pac-12 that has gotten so sort of fleeced of talent by the Big Ten, the SEC, and what's the Atlantic Conference called? How am I blanking on that?
What the ACC? No,
ACC. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, it is the ACC. Okay.
Yeah.
But things are getting different in college now. They're starting to pay players and stuff. I'll just have to keep an eye on that.
Well, yeah, and that was the sort of the, what our, Lynch and everybody said about the draft was like, hey, we're not really valuing these 5th, 6th, 7th round picks as much anymore. Sure enough, we moved up twice, including for a running back.
He said the second half of the draft is weak. So they moved up and they took, like, what was it, 6 players in the top 135, something like that. And then, what's Garendo. So He
was the last
transferred to
one.
Wisconsin from Louisville because he wasn't getting playing time. And then he had 132 carries for over 800 yards, which is pretty good production. But the guy returns kicks too. And he's 6'1", 225 pounds, and runs a 4.33. I mean,
He's like a big Mostert.
That's exactly it. You know, we've needed a change of pace running back, and that's what I was thinking. Like, let's get Frank Gore Jr. late. You know, we need a change of pace running back, and that's kind of what we got with Gorindo, right?
Yeah, and I think, you know, he's a big Mostert, or as some people are saying, a small, fast Juice.
Ooh, Bryant's actually thinking he's going to switch to fullback, you know, and that he could be Juice's replacement next year. Well, not this year, but 2025. He could be, right?
Okay.
And, you know, just having a guy like that pop out of the backfield and catch it, like Juice does. Sometimes I don't think we utilize him enough, but have him catch it and take off with it. That's another weapon for Brock Purdy, right?
Sure is.
And we already talked about Cowie, and he's quick, speedy, slot receiver type, right? And then the safety, Malik Mustafa, and he's another, looks to me like he's a good system fit for us.
Yep.
And it's almost like, are we just getting him because we don't know what's going on with Hufanga, or do the Niners know something about Hufanga's knee and his rehab? I don't think anything has been talked about whatsoever. Have you heard anything?
Not a peep, but what they do know about Hufanga is his contract runs out next year.
Yes.
That's what they do know. So you got Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa to be the core moving forward in case Hufanga either doesn't come back 100% or gets a bag somewhere else. Got to have insurance against that. So,
yeah, you can't keep everybody, and we're about to pay a quarterback, 50 to 70 million, so hopefully somewhere in that range. But
yeah, I think he'll get a little less than that. I think it'll be more like high 40s, but yeah, high 40s, low 50s. I could see.
I'm thinking it's going to be like low to mid 50s myself.
There you go. The other thing about Mustafa is he could grow into being, the next Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner type too. If you remember, Fred was a safety in college, not coming out, but before, I think he maybe switched to linebackers last season or last 2 seasons. So we like those, big safety, small linebacker types to be really good in coverage. So that could be part of the future plan too. As Dre Greenlaw's contract, I believe, is up, and he's got the Achilles, and that could be a real devastating injury for a linebacker.
Yeah, we don't know, how he's going to come back yet, right? But we also have D. Winters and Jalen Graham.
Yes.
And they're both, good linebackers, good sideline to sideline speed, and the red shirt's going to be coming off. So we'll see what happens there, right?
Yeah.
And then we have
I like both of them. I feel like D. Winters was kind of a Dre Greenlaw clone, and Jalen Graham was kind of a Fred Warner clone. But if you just look at, draft capital spent, D. Winters was like 5th round pick or 5th, I think. Jalen Graham was end of the draft. He's kind of like the linebacker we took this year from Florida State.
Yeah, I think he's the 7th. I think he's the 7th.
Or not last, because it was Brock Purdy, but yeah, I mean, pretty late. And or I guess no, that was the year after Brock Purdy was taken. It was our last pick in the 7th round. And so with Mustafa, he was what, a 4th round pick? So
yes, he was in the 130. I think he was 135. I think
big investment. So one way or the other, either safety or bulk up and become a linebacker. I think, his long-term prognosis, I would bet on him over D. Winters or Jalen Graham at this point.
But you
Maybe not
know,
for linebacker though. Just to stay
and
on the
we
team.
drafted. Remember, we drafted that linebacker. Wasn't he a Florida State guy?
Yes. So, this year?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
With our
absolutely. He's
last
a
pick
big
in the
hitter.
draft.
Yep. I'm blanking on his name though right now. I haven't been
I
reviewing.
I am too, but I honestly don't know if he has much of a chance to make the team because of Fred Warner. Then we signed Campbell. Then we have what we re-signed Flanagan Fowles. We have Dre Greenlaw is probably going to start the season on the pup list.
Probably.
And then you got D Winters and Jalen Graham. So I don't know if he's actually going to make the squad or be a practice squad guy, but this is all yet to be seen. OTAs are coming, folks. I'm kind of excited. The main reason I'm excited is the defensive line depth that we brought in free agency. This is kind of a big deal to me. Last year, I don't think we had it, even though we traded for Chase Young and Randy Gregory. And Randy Gregory, he was okay. He did pretty good. Chase Young, where were you, bud?
He was there the first game we got him against the Jags, and he showed up a little bit in the Super Bowl, and really not much in between. Tatum Bethune is the name of that linebacker. I looked.
There you go. There you go.
He cheated.
And he's like borderline 5'11", borderline 6 foot. He's a smaller linebacker. That's just what we like at linebacker. Right.
We like speed and big hitting over brute force. Yep.
And I mean, in the Super Bowl, I saw like one of our edges that we didn't see much of, Robert Beal Jr. He got some snaps and he was in that backfield. And I was watching this like, like, why haven't they been giving him more snaps? But, you got Randy Gregory and Chase Young, right? And
maybe that's why we didn't draft a defensive end or a D tackle. I mean, he wouldn't be for the D tackle, but it was surprising we didn't draft a D lineman in this draft.
I was expecting an edge to be drafted at any point in the draft, just because we always do it. And it didn't happen. No interior, no edge, no. But, we got in the offseason, obviously let go Armstead, we brought in Malik Collins, who's a good pass rusher, 5'6" sack type of guy. We brought in Jordan Elliott, who's a good run stuffer from Cleveland. Malik Collins was from the Texans. And then, we already have Hargrave, and then we have Kalia Davis, Givens. I believe we brought back T.Y. McGill. I mean, you know what? When it comes down to it, I kind of like our depth on the defensive line overall. I look at us like last year we kept 5 interior linemen and carried like 4 edges. This year I think it's going to be 4 interior linemen and 5 edges because we brought in Leonard Floyd. So Leonard Floyd, Bosa, and then you have Gross Matos, Drake Jackson, and Robert Beal Jr.
That makes sense.
And
you could always put T.Y. McGill back on the practice squad. That's where we got him from, the Vikings practice squad. So
yep,
he's a periphery, borderline bubble player, if you will. So yeah, I don't hate that at all.
And this is all like that. That's pretty much the big free agent moves we made. We didn't sign an offensive lineman, we did a backup tackle from the Raiders, but I don't know if he can even beat out Jalen Moore. We'll have to see. Right.
Fingers crossed, baby. Fingers crossed.
I know.
I got no faith in Jalen
next week
Moore.
is the schedule drop, Ted. I'm hoping that it's all out by the time, we do our thing, right?
Yeah.
I would like to do this
it might happen. It might happen to maybe 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, maybe. I wouldn't be shocked.
I mean, if it's out, we could do a prediction, right out a schedule prediction, go game through game, and then we'll actually know the schedule. And, that's kind of a big deal. When do we play where, and hopefully they do stack up those Eastern games so we're not flying so much,
I know that UK folks are obviously hoping for a London or, England, somewhere else in England game. So we'll see. Hopefully they get that.
I heard there's going to be a game in Brazil. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's the home, or not the home opener, but the season opener between the Eagles and I forgot the other team again now. But that's a long way to fly. That's a long way to fly. But season opener, I get it, because you can get down there plenty in advance, maybe practice in a soccer field or something like that. But if you're doing something like that with a game before and a game after, that's pretty rough amount of travel. Compared to because I think it probably takes twice as long to get there as it does to London.
It does. It does. I mean, distance wise, I think it's pretty close. Especially for the Eagles, and like if it's another back east team, that's even further they have to go.
Right, compared to London. Yeah, I meant like London from here. But yeah, I didn't even. Was it? Yeah. Getting to London from there, it's not so bad. It's like a 6-hour flight or something like that. 5 hours. Yeah.
That's not terrible. I remember I flew out to California, the longest part. Well, I actually didn't even have a layover. I got off my plane in Vegas because I flew to Vegas and then went to Sacramento. And, I got off my plane. I didn't have to switch my luggage. They did it for me. And I literally had enough time to walk to my gate, got in line, and they started boarding. It happened that fast. Right. And then I looked out the window and I saw my luggage. It's kind of distinct. I saw my luggage going up. I was like, yeah, I didn't lose my luggage. Let's go.
Nothing worse than losing your luggage when you fly. That's always a bummer, being far from home with none of your clothes or toiletries or whatever. It's a huge bummer.
Oh yeah. Far from home, have to go shopping for new clothes. Yeah, that's never good. But I mean, what else you got to add? But I'm excited for the schedule to come out. But what else you got?
That's pretty much it. There's really not a lot of news in the last week or so. Just like reiteration of no news with Brandon Ayuk, basically by Ian Rappaport.
Hurry up and wait. Yep, that's pretty much all I got to report on Brandon Ayuk. Is hurry up and wait, folks.
There you go.
And John Lynch has made assurances to Debo that he'll be, here. So I was expecting him to be traded post June 1st, maybe. But after looking into it and seeing John Lynch said, yeah, you'll be on the squad, it's not happening this year.
There you go.
So,
I think it'll be
look out off season next year, though.
Next June, yeah, June of 2025, absolutely. Unless he has a bang up season, if he has a 2021 type season, maybe they have to reconsider.
Ooh, you know what though? If he does and they end up extending Ayuk and keeping him, you know what that does though? That ups his price.
It does,
right?
Absolutely.
So if he has a beast season, I could see us trading him to a team like, maybe the Jets or the Dolphins or a team that runs a similar system to us. I could see us doing that.
Texans.
Yes. The Texans are definitely a candidate, especially with CJ Stroud, and they downed Stephon Diggs' contract to 1 year. So he's a rental, more or less.
Make or break for Stephon Diggs, for sure.
Yep. All right, folks. So we're going to get on out of here. And, as my guy Corey Davis, though, would say, go 49ers and F all 31 other teams.
There you go.